Floods have killed over 120 people in Germany and Belgium. A German minister described it as a humanitarian catastrophe. Entire communities are in ruins after swollen rivers swept through towns and villages. Emergency services are searching for hundreds still missing. Record rainfall in Western Europe caused rivers to burst their banks, devastating the region. Belgium has also reported at least 22 dead after the extreme weather. The South African President, Cyril Ramaphosa, has said the violent unrest that swept the country was clearly planned and instigated. Mr. Ramaphosa is visiting the worst-hit province, KwaZulu-Natal, where almost 100 people were killed. And a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, Danish Siddiqui, has been killed in Afghanistan while covering a clash between security forces and Taliban fighters.
Twitter accounts of famous Americans and major companies were attacked Wednesday. Bill Gates and former U.S. President Barack Obama were among those affected. Indonesian rescue workers search for flood victims in South Sulawesi province. More than 30 people are reported dead. Azerbaijan and Armenia accuse each other of shelling military positions and villages after the end of a one-day ceasefire. And in Ethiopia, water levels are rising in a disputed dam on the Blue Nile River after talks with Sudan and Egypt failed.
We start here in Japan, where coronavirus cases are surging in the capital with the opening of the Tokyo Games just 1 week away. And athletes are pouring into airports. A city on the Sea of Japan coast held a welcoming ceremony for Kosovo's judo team training there. It includes 2016 Olympic gold medalist Mylinda Kelmendi.
I hope we will make it again to be the most successful Olympic Games till now and to have a lot of medals. In which medals I hope all the citizens of Sanjo will feel good and proud.
Training camps are happening across Japan this week. The Croatian men's rowing team is based at Lake Kawaguchi, west of Tokyo. The team has high hopes to attain medals after winning at the most recent Olympics. Teams are only allowed to enter the athletes' village in Tokyo 5 days before their competitions begin to help prevent coronavirus infections.
Really regret that it's coronavirus and everything around it, because we would like to walk a little bit more, to see the town, to meet the people. And maybe because of that, we would like to come back when it's normal time.
Meanwhile, officials of the city hosting the Ugandan delegation say team member Julius Sechitoleko has gone missing. The 20-year-old is a weightlifter. He was not going to compete in the games and was set to return home next Tuesday. The officials say they notified police after he failed to show up for a PCR test. Officers are looking for the athlete. As the clock ticks down to the Games, International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach has visited the Peace Memorial Park in Hiroshima. Friday marks the first day of a UN resolution urging member states to observe an Olympic truce. As rain fell, Bach offered flowers at the cenotaph for atomic bomb victims and observed a moment of silence. He gave a speech after visiting the Atomic Bomb Museum.
Today, I am here to pay respect to Hiroshima as a city of peace and to all the people of Hiroshima.
Bach said the Tokyo Games will be a beacon of hope for a peaceful future. But he faced anger from some people. Protesters took to the streets, calling for the Games to be canceled.
Bach says he wants to promote peace, but his words ring hollow, as it's not the right time to stage an Olympics that will be truly welcomed by people in Hiroshima and around the world.
IOC Vice President John Coates was in Nagasaki, another city devastated by an atomic bomb in World War II. He offered condolences to the victims. Officials in Tokyo confirmed 1,271 coronavirus infections on Friday. That continues a trend of some of the highest case counts in half a year. The figure topped 1,000 for the third day in a row. That didn't happen during the last wave of infections in April and May. The daily case number has increased week over week for 27 consecutive days. Experts say the current spike is connected to the more infectious Delta variant first detected in India. Officials are screening some positive tests for a mutation associated with that strain. On Friday, they confirmed 303 such infections in Tokyo, the highest ever.
Data shows the Delta variant is spreading in the community. We need to be fully alert.
The rising cases are putting healthcare workers on edge. This hospital will treat athletes and others in Japan for the Olympics if they contract the coronavirus. If infection numbers continue to rise in Tokyo, the hospital staff are worried they may not be able to manage both local patients and Olympic participants.
We have a limited number of doctors and nurses. The number of new cases must be controlled so we won't be overwhelmed.
The weekly average of new infections is also rising in Tokyo's neighboring prefectures, which will hold some Olympic events. Officials are trying to stop the spread with a fourth state of emergency in Tokyo and intensive measures in the 3 other prefectures. That'll last until August 22nd. The government's top coronavirus advisor is worried about an increase in travel during the Olympics and summer holidays.
We need to do whatever we can to curb infections as much as possible during the emergency period in order to get past this critical phase.
Since July 1st, officials have reported 5 positive tests of people visiting from abroad for the Olympics. This week, organizers decided to allow athletes who've been in close contact with infected people to compete in the games under certain conditions. They need to test negative for COVID-19 about 6 hours before an event. Authorities across Japan reported more than 3,400 new coronavirus infections on Friday. Now, Thailand logged a daily record of over 9,600 cases on Friday. It comes despite efforts by authorities to control the coronavirus with restrictions already in place. The Delta variant continues to account for most of the infections. The medical system is being pushed to the limits. In Bangkok, some patients are staying in temporary shelters set up by supporters. Health authorities say over 80% of beds at intensive care units in the capital are already in use. The government is struggling with its vaccination program. It's approved a plan to mix doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine with China's Sinovac. Officials say the combination is effective in protecting against highly transmissible variants. Public concerns are growing over the slow pace of vaccinations. Only 13% of the population has been inoculated so far. The country's COVID-19 task force announced on Friday there would be more restrictions without giving specifics. New cases have not come down since tougher measures were ordered earlier this week. And despite the uncertainty, the popular resort island of Samui on Thursday launched a tourism campaign to attract vaccinated foreign holidaymakers. This comes just 2 weeks after Phuket Island launched its own program to welcome visitors. The family of a Sri Lankan woman who died at an immigration detention facility in central Japan has renewed their request to see video footage of her in the facility. Wishma Sandamali had overstayed her visa and was being detained at a facility in Nagoya City. She began complaining of ill health in January. Doctors examined the 33-year-old, but she died in March without being hospitalized. An investigation by the Immigration Services Agency is underway into how she was treated at the facility. Wishma's 2 younger sisters, now in Japan, met on Friday with the head of the agency, Sasaki Shoko. The family's lawyer says agency officials declined to release the video, citing security issues. The lawyer added the family was not told when the final report on the investigation would be released. The agency reportedly asked the family in advance how often they were in touch with Wishma while she was in Japan. After the meeting, Wishma's sister said the family asked numerous questions, but agency officials did not respond to most of them, saying the answers would be in the report. China has launched a nationwide program to trade carbon emissions. It aims to help the world's largest emitter of greenhouse gases reduce CO2 output to net zero by the year 2060. Chinese state-run media says the system started operating on Friday. It sets a cap on the amount of CO2 each company can discharge. Businesses with low emissions are allowed to sell their extra allowances to those with large output. Power companies are among the more than 2,000 large emitters initially subject to the program. The government says these businesses are responsible for over 4 billion tons a year, and that'll make China's carbon trading market the biggest in the world. A similar trading system has been operating in the European Union, and Japan is also considering implementation. In other news, the United Nations is calling for urgent support for people internally displaced in Afghanistan. Thousands have fled their homes as U.S. and foreign troops pull out and the Taliban advance. The UN said on Thursday there have been intensive movements of people toward the borders with Pakistan and Iran. The UN Refugee Agency says an estimated 270,000 people have left their homes since January. The total number of internally displaced now tops 3.5 million. The agency says many families are escaping from extortion by armed groups and the dangers of explosive devices along major roads. Violence has surged in recent weeks. The Taliban have been intensifying their attacks on security forces and civilians, while U.S. troops are pulling back and departing. The withdrawal is set to be completed by the end of next month. The Taliban and Afghan government have been negotiating in Doha since September, but there's been little progress. Each side blames the other for the deadlock. The UN Refugee Agency says this is a critical moment. It says the international community needs to show a spirit of solidarity and burden sharing with Afghanistan's people and government, as well as its neighbors. Moving now to the weather. People in central and northern areas of Japan are feeling a surge in the mercury as the rainy season was declared over in the region. Our meteorologist Sayaka Mori has the details for there and elsewhere in our World Weather Report.
Hello there. After experiencing weeks of rainy weather, central Japan and northern Japan finally got out of the rainy season. That includes the Kanto Koshin and also the Tohoku region. For the south of Tohoku, it was 12 days earlier than normal. Areas like Shikoku, Kinki, and Tokai are still in the rainy season. It looks like Shikoku and also Kyushu will see drenching rainfall during the weekend. So be careful of flooding as well as landslides for the next several days. Further down towards the south, we have a tropical depression over the western Pacific. This system will likely slowly intensify and slowly approach the Okinawa region into early next week and eventually head towards eastern China. Meanwhile, it's a rainy season called the North American monsoon season for the southwestern United States. A dramatic rescue took place in Arizona. Take a look at this video. A family in Arizona was rescued from a trapped car after heavy floods on Wednesday. A man and his kids were on the roof on their car, surrounded by raging floods. Almost 50 millimeters of rain fell in just one day in parts of Arizona, which is similar to the monthly average for July. Ample moisture will continue to flow in from the Gulf of California and the Gulf of Mexico, so unstable weather along with thunderstorms will continue to affect the southwestern U.S. That could mitigate the wildfire situation out there. You can see rotating clouds still staying over Central Europe. In Germany, more than 100 people have been killed because of catastrophic floods. Many people are killed in Germany as well due to flooding. Unfortunately, we will continue to see unstable weather conditions in some places. Some areas in western Germany saw nearly 160 millimeters of rain. Although the peak is over, more rain is possible in parts of Germany, Austria, as well as northern Italy. That's it for me. Stay safe.